This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
Open houses. So we do a lot of open houses here on the Made for More team. We're big fans of them. In fact, 1 in 10 homes sell because of an open house.
Oh, really? 1 in 10 homes, 10% of homes sell because of an open house.
Yep.
Does that mean somebody's just dropping by and they see it, or because someone's in the market and they go visit an open house?
Yeah, so very rarely will it be somebody who's just randomly dropping by and they'll be like, oh, this is perfect, I need to buy this. Because there's a whole lot that needs to happen before then. They need to figure out, are they in a lease, or do they need to sell their home first? What's their financing look like? That there's all these dominoes that need to fall before you actually write it up and close on a home. So typically it's somebody who's out with their realtor, or the realtor's not available, and so they're taking advantage of the open house.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So why does your team at Made for More like open houses?
Yeah. So there's at the end of the day, we make money when we get clients what they want, right? And so with open houses, that's one stone, that's one tool in a realtor's tool belt, if you will, where we can help them get what they want. And so that's why we typically do at least one open house the first weekend or the second weekend on the market, or if there's a price improvement, we'll do an open house after that. Because we do so much. We do so much in terms of marketing, radio, digital, social media. We have actual people who work for us that will call through the community. We do direct mailing. We do all these different marketing avenues. But we put a sign in the yard. But you want to leave. You don't want to leave a stone unturned. And so that last stone typically is open houses.
Okay, so I'd love to get your perspective on two sides of this issue, one coming from the realtor. What are some keys to doing a successful open house?
So for doing an open house, one, you have to have signs up. Yes, there's
How many is enough?
At least 15.
15 signs.
At least 15 signs, yeah. So that's.
And this is not like in front of the house. This is obviously at cross streets,
yeah,
right?
This isn't like that company that puts the happy birthday or the happy graduation sign, and it's like the whole yard is just a sign for them.
Right.
It's not like that. You do want to have signs, obviously, in the yard and at major intersections and at the cross streets,
sure,
directing traffic in, because you may get people who are beginning the process, and as a realtor, we want to work with those people. They're not committed to an agent. We want to help them, if they're beginning the process, get pre-approved with a good lender.
What's good signage? Because I've seen a variety of different types of signs, open house signs. Is there some certain signs that work better as far as how big the print is? Is it better to have a picture of the realtor on the sign, the company they work for, or generic signs work better?
Yeah. So what we teach, and I didn't come up with this, so I can't take credit for it, but there's a guy by the name of Brent Gove, and he was like the open house king. And he's actually a business partner of mine and a dear friend. And what he taught me was you want to get the signs that say they're yellow with black print, so they stand out against greenery, against signs, against whatever backdrop they're put against. They stand out well. Because if you have a blue sign or a green
sure,
sign, depending on some situations, you can't even see it.
Right.
And so
bright yellow with black lettering.
Black lettering, and it says open house, list of motivated buyers is what it says on there. Now that doesn't mean that the owner is motivated. It just means we have a list of motivated
So even
buyers.
if you're not interested in that house, they've got a list of other available properties that you might be interested in that area.
Correct. And so,
love that.
So we have a system, an algorithm that will actually pull homes from the MLS, and through these key factors, we're able to identify who is a motivated seller. And so then we are able to present that to the people coming through the open house and say, hey, if this home doesn't work for you, here's a list of motivated sellers who might be willing to negotiate on price or terms.
Okay, cool. I love that. So any other keys to having a successful open house?
Yeah, so you want to have the signs up as soon as possible. You want to show up and be ready on time, if not a little bit early. And as far as, again, this is more like speaking to a real estate agent.
Sure.
Like the term is love the one you're with. So if somebody comes into an open house and you're talking with them and you're having a great conversation, and then somebody else comes in, welcome them, be polite, but then pivot back to the person you were having the conversation with. Because if you have a couple of half conversations with 5 people,
yeah,
you haven't made a connection. You're not really able to understand their needs. And so the goal for a realtor at an open house, it's successful for the realtor if they have at least one rock solid appointment after that open house.
Okay. Great. So their goal is to have at least one appointment after that 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour open house.
Yeah. And so what we teach too is you can do them 7 days a week. So a lot of people think, just on weekends.
Right.
But Valor and I actually did 90 open houses in 90 days. So 90 consecutive days, we did 90 open houses. And so, it's a great place to work if the home's vacant and you need to do stuff. Like, you might as well set up a temporary storefront and meet the neighbors and meet potential clients. You're not going to meet potential clients in your house.
Make good use of the time. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming from the family that's looking to buy a home, or they're in the market, or they see the signs for an open house, is it okay? Or let me put it this way: what should potential home buyers be doing, be asking? What should their experience be like when they're going to an open house?
Yeah, so there's different categories of buyers. So if somebody is like interested in that home and they're not working with an agent, then they need to start asking questions like, hey, can you share why the seller's moving? What's their timeline? What's important to them about this sale? Like, find some factors out. And if the realtor's doing their job, they'll ask them, hey, do you have an agent, or are you just figuring this out on your own? Because then dual agency can be created. If that's the agent's listing, oftentimes it's not. It's more of a buyer's agent in there rather than a seller's agent or a listing agent. And so they need to have a conversation about what that buyer's looking for and see if this home checks the boxes and if they can make it work. Now, if you walk in and you have a realtor, but your realtor's not able to be with you at that open house, all you have to do is just hand them your realtor's business card and just say, hey, you know what, I'm here. This is my real estate agent. I'm just here to tour the home. And thank you so much.
I don't know many people, though, that are carrying their realtor's business cards.
Well, the realtor needs to coach them on that.
Okay.
Right? And so oftentimes people will say, hey, yeah, I have a realtor. I didn't want to waste my realtor's time. I'm just in the early stages, still figuring out what I want. So they may not have a business card, but so if you're touring the home and you're trying to figure out, hey, what are some potential red flags as a buyer? You don't want to be going through their stuff. You don't want to be you want to be respectful, first of all. If you're bringing your kids along and you want to make them part of the process, totally encourage that. I think it's fantastic, but just make sure they're not opening cupboards, they're not grabbing stuff out of the drawers, they're not jumping on the couches. Like, imagine this was a jewelry store. Like, how would you wouldn't want your kids to touch anything in the jewelry store. Like, just be on your best manners, best behavior. And so, but while you're there, you want to be looking at the roof. How's the roof look? How does the front yard and backyard look? What's the neighborhood like? Are there a bunch of, is there pride of ownership in the community? Or is it maybe not so much pride of ownership and you're afraid that the guy who's parking his El Camino might end up parking it on your lawn one day, And so looking for stuff like that. And then the biggest thing that we look for typically, or not the biggest, but something that I like to look for is the exterior of the home. I like to walk the exterior and just see how the maintenance has been on the home. How are the eaves? Is there evidence of dry rot? Are there things that are going to potentially pop up? How old is the HVAC unit? How old's the water heater? How old are the appliances in the kitchen? Just the visible bones of the home, and just kind of get a feel, okay, if I were to move in here, what would potentially break? Right, what would I be responsible for if I was the new homeowner? How are the fences? Are they leaning? Are they old but standing straight up? Just things like that.
Sure, absolutely. Be very investigative, right? Don't afraid to ask even the smallest questions about the most minor things in the home.
Yeah, and so we teach our
because that's going to be important to you.
Absolutely, and so we teach our agents to have a we call it an open house checklist. There's I can't remember, it's 27 different things on this checklist.
Really? That's cool.
That they need to know the answers to. So is there Melrose? Is there HOA? What is the HOA fee? What does it include? How old's the roof? How old's the HVAC? Just things like that. So then that way, hey, is there an addition? Was it permitted? Can you park an RV here, or is that against the CC&Rs or the HOA? And so you just want to make sure that you have all those questions answered, so that way if you do decide to make a move in that community, you're ready.
So one more question about the open houses. Now, if I'm a neighbor, is it wrong for me to go visit an open house if I have no interest in buying or selling my home? Are realtors annoyed by that? Because I know that happens probably quite a lot, where people see the open house signs and they got a free weekend and it's fun to look around, and especially if it's a home that's in your neighborhood, because they're going to potentially be your neighbors.
Yeah.
Is it wrong to go check out the house?
So my answer to that is absolutely 100% no. It is not wrong to check out the house. But you got to realize what you're walking into. You're walking onto, like if you walked onto a future Ford lot,
A car dealership.
right. Like a salesperson's going to come out and try to talk to and engage with you.
Right.
Like that's essentially what you're walking into. So if you want to tour this person's home, if you want to be that neighbor that kind of sees how they decorate, you've never been in there, you're just curious, totally fine. But just
don't waste the realtor's time.
Well,
tell them up front,
tell them up front, say, hey, I'm just here to check it out. Totally get that. And be respectful. Like what I don't understand is why, like our jobs, there's so much liability when we open up somebody else's home and just allow strangers to come in.
Right.
Like you wouldn't do that as a homeowner.
Right.
But you're allowing somebody else to do that for the sale of your property. So when they ask you to sign up or they ask you to, just put your name down and provide some information, like sometimes that stuff gets stolen from these open houses. Like you have to make sure that your valuables are locked away, that your guns are put away, that the drugs are put away, your prescription drugs, right? And so there's just all these scenarios. So when you're walking into somebody else's house, just realize you're walking to somebody else's house. The least you could do is sign in and be respectful.
Right.
In case anything goes down, we can contact you. During COVID, it was a big deal. What if somebody contracted COVID and you didn't sign in and now you didn't know that you were in a house that
You
had
bring
COVID?
up an interesting topic that I'd love to ask you on. As a realtor, do you make the people coming into your home sign in order to come into the house and look around, or is it optional?
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the whole NAR lawsuit thing that's moving forward. We'll have more clarity around that in coming months. But as a general practice, we like to have them sign in.
Okay, so you ask them, but you don't demand it. Do you say, hey, we need you to sign in to tour the house?
It depends on the seller, too.
Yeah.
Right? Like if the seller's like, hey, I want to know who's been in my home.
Okay.
They're very security conscious. Then it's like, hey, sign in. Or book an appointment with your real estate agent if you want to see the home.
Right.
Like you have options here.
Yeah. I guess like you said, it depends on the owner of the home and the realtor and different circumstances.
And the vibe. Like sometimes if they look like they belong in the community, like you saw them walk out of their house, then that's a little bit more understanding. But if it's somebody who just came whipping in and there's two parties and one person's trying to talk to you while the other person's walking away, and exploring the home, like that's a red flag.
Right.
Like somebody's trying to keep you tied up there. That's another thing you need to do if you're a real estate agent is never do an open house alone.
Oh, really?
Like
Why?
It's so dangerous. So dangerous.
So who would you bring along with you?
A good either another real estate agent or a lender.
Okay.
So just at least one other person, because if it's a multi-story home, then there's at least somebody on each level.
Oh, gotcha.
Because there's horror stories about people hiding in closets. And then the realtor goes to lock up the house and they pop out of the closet and do something terrible to the realtor.
Oh, wow.
Or the realtor leaves and then they, steal stuff from the home. So you just want to at least have two people there for safety reasons.
So give us a little tease about the book and we'll talk about it in the next segment.
Oh, yeah. Who, Not How. It's by this guy named Dan Sullivan. He's an absolute legend. And other guy named Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And the focus is oftentimes we're asking, how can I afford this house? How can I accomplish this goal? How can I complete this task? And the more important question is to ask, who can help me accomplish this goal?
Oh, interesting.
Who can help me complete this task?
Okay, cool. So we'll talk about that next.
All right.
How do you know you can trust someone? Usually we ask other people, right? Are they honest? Are they ethical? Do they have good character? Do they do what they say they're going to do? And oftentimes we'll go to Google reviews, right? To look up what people have said about them. And I got to tell you guys, nobody has more 5-star Google reviews than my friend Johnny Jennings and the Made for More Living team. Go look them up. See what other people have to say about them. Why so many listeners in our area have worked with Johnny Jennings and trusted him and the Made for More Living team to sell their home. No matter what kind of condition your home is in, or hey, maybe you want an all cash offer. You want to be done. You don't want to hold any open houses. Johnny Jennings can get you an all cash offer today and you can be done. Again, we know this is an important personal transaction for you, and there is nobody better that you can trust and have a conversation with, a cup of coffee with, than Johnny Jennings and the Made for More Living team. You get more with Made for More, so Google Johnny Jennings Made for More Living team.